Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Assembly Committee on Commerce and Labor. Secretary, will you please take roll?
Assemblywoman Backus. Assemblyman Carter.
Present.
Assemblywoman Duran.
Here.
Assemblywoman Hardy. Assemblywoman Howdigi.
Here.
Assemblywoman Kasama.
Here.
Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno.
Here.
Assemblyman O'Neill. Assemblywoman Torres.
Here.
Assemblyman Yeager.
Here.
Assemblyman Urick.
Here.
Chair Marzola.
Here. Please mark Assemblywoman Hardy absent excused, and please mark Assemblyman O'Neill present once he arrives. Today we are supposed to hear two bills, Assembly Bill 132 and Assembly Bill 214. Let me try that again. Senate Bill 132 and Senate Bill 214. We are going to take those out of order. We will be hearing Senate Bill 214 first. Before we get started, I'd like to make a few housekeeping announcements. Please turn all your electronic devices either off or on silent mode. If you wish to testify, please sign in at the table by the door. If you have a business card, please provide the committee secretary with one. If you have handouts for the committee, please provide 20 copies to the committee secretary prior to your testimony. For those testifying, please turn on the microphone and clearly state and spell your name for the record. I expect courtesy and respect in all our interactions in this committee. And with that, we will turn to Senate Bill 214, which revises provisions relating to governmental administration. Vice Chair Howdigi, you may begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair Marzola and members of the Assembly Committee on Commerce and Labor. For the record, I'm Assemblywoman Sandra Howdigi, and I represent Assembly District 41. And today I'm here as the chair of the Sunset Subcommittee on Legislative Commission for the 2021-2022 interim to present Senate Bill 214. This was a bill that was originally carried by my Vice Chair, Senator Spearman, and I'm happy to be here to present it on her behalf and on behalf of the Sunset Subcommittee. I've presented a couple of bills in here from the Sunset Subcommittee, and so you are familiar with the subcommittee and what the functions do. But just to give you a refresher, the subcommittee is charged with 1, conducting a review of all boards, commissions, and similar entities in Nevada created by statute. There's over 230 of those. And we determine whether each entity should be continued, modified, consolidated with another entity, or terminated. 2, recommending improvements to the entities that are to be continued, modified, or consolidated. And 3, determining whether any tax exemptions, abatements, or money set aside for an entity should be continued, modified, or terminated. Chair Marzola, with your permission, I would like to walk the committee through the sections of this bill, which are the direct result of the work that we did during the Sunset Subcommittee. Okay. Thank you. Sections 1, 9, 15, and 17 of this bill terminate the Advisory Council on Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics and eliminate references to the council in various statutes. The subcommittee voted to terminate the council after representatives of the office within the Office of the Governor reported several challenges experienced over the years, including 1, obtaining the necessary number of appointments to meet a quorum, 2, scheduling council meetings with science, technology, engineering, math, or STEM teachers who have busy schedules both during the day and after school without funding allocated to provide substitutes for them. 3, difficulty meeting the statutory requirements to hold twice yearly in-person meetings. 4, a lack of clear mission and regulatory authority for the council. And last, rigid statutory duties of the council, such as holding region-wide recognition events for students in northern and southern Nevada. Sections 2 through 8 and 17 terminate the Commission on Educational Technology within the Nevada Department of Education and make changes to transfer the duties of the Commission to the department. During the subcommittee's review of the Commission, representatives of the Commission recommended repealing the Commission in favor of the State Board of Education's recent work with NDE's Digital Learning Collaborative. According to the representatives from the department, the Commission has not met since 2018 due to several member vacancies. Sections 10 and 17 terminate the competency-based network education network within NDE. The department recommended terminating the network since the Superintendent of Public Instruction's Blue Ribbon Commission for a globally prepared Nevada and relevant NDE programs are currently carrying out the charge of the network. In addition, representatives noticed that the network has accomplished all of its duties pursuant to Assembly Bill 110 of the 2017 session. The network's final report was submitted to the governor and the legislature on August 23, 2022. Section 11 amends the Nevada Revised Statutes to remove from statute the specific authority for the Advisory Council on the State Program for Wellness and the Prevention of Chronic Disease to appoint a subcommittee to study patient-centered medical homes. Staff of the Division of Public and Behavioral Health, the Department of Health and Human Services, confirmed that the subcommittee was formally dissolved. Staff further reported that the subcommittee was not effective in conducting a study of the delivery of health care through patient-centered medical homes. This was largely due to its inability to meet a quorum. Sections 12 through 14 and 17 remove the authority for the Nevada System of Higher Education to establish a committee on anatomical dissection. During the review of the committee reported its inability in meeting the duties outlined in NRS 415.360 through 415.470, primarily the duty to retain the bodies, and recommended terminating the committee or consolidating it with another entity. The Sunset Subcommittee also learned that the medical schools in this state operate under willed body donor programs pursuant to the revised Uniform Anatomical Gift Act, NRS 451.500, and do not accept unclaimed bodies for medical education or research. Finally, among the other provisions previously stated, Section 17 terminates the advisory committee to the Juvenile Justice Oversight Commission. Representatives for the committee reported that all 6 positions have remained vacant for 2 years, and the committee has not held any separate meetings since its creation. Instead, previous members attended the meetings of the Juvenile Justice Oversight Commission. Madam Chair, we are ready for any questions. I know that was a lot of information, but I know that this is just a refresher because this is all of the information that I covered during my presentation to the committee on the Sunset Subcommittee that we had earlier this session.
Thank you, Vice Chair, for stepping in and going through the bill for us. We do have some questions. We will start with Assemblywoman Kasama.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation. It was a pleasure serving with the Majority Leader Howdigi on this. And I just like to say I echo the sentiments of this. I think sometimes we all have good intentions with creating some of these work groups, councils, and then if we don't track it for many years, other areas are supplying the needs or the information that we want, whether it's other councils or through other state agencies. And when we find these redundancies, I just think it's good that we can eliminate them so people can stay focused on the purposes at hand. So I certainly agree with this, and thank you for your work on this.
Thank you, Assemblywoman Kasama. This is Assemblywoman Sandra Howdigi for the record, and I couldn't agree more. It gave me great pleasure to terminate some of these redundancies that existed, and as we saw sitting on the subcommittee, a lot of these functions from these entities that we are recommending for termination were duplicative, and they were already being done by the departments. So thank you.
Assemblywoman Torres.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I appreciate it. My question has to do with the term educational technology, and I understand that although the term educational technology is used pretty consistently throughout the bill, specifically, I don't even know what section I'm looking at. On page 5 of the bill, I see it referenced a couple times. And I'm just wondering if we could be, and I understand that this is existing language that is in statute, but there is currently no definition for educational technology in the bill. I tried to look for one, and I didn't see one in regulations either, and I'm just wondering if we could perhaps consider a definition for educational technology, because I believe the intent of the language is to get to specifically like hardware for schools, but I also think educational technology, since this part of the statute was added in, it's changed so much because this would be inclusive of like programs that educators might use in their classrooms. It would also be inclusive of like smart boards and things like that. So I'm wondering if we could get a little bit more specific, or you could require the department to create the regulation, the definition for that term too.
Assemblywoman Sandra Howdigi for the record, and Assemblywoman Torres, I'm sorry, but you're not talking to any of the changes we made. You're speaking to existing statute, right? Just something outside of what we're presenting in Assembly Bill 213.
Chair, if I could follow up for clarification. So it's already an existing statute, but it is referenced in, we're now changing the duties that were under the commission before, and now we're saying that the department is required to do that. So although it is an existing statute, it's definitely a part of this language.
It's Assemblywoman Sandra Howdigan. So just so I know, I'm looking at page 5. It's that section B under sub 2, right? You just want some further clarification as to what educational technology is? Yes. Okay.
Committee members, any additional questions? I don't see any. We'll open up for testimony and support. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in support to Senate Bill 214? I don't see anyone. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in support? I don't see anyone. Broadcast, is there anyone wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 214?
Thank you, Chair. The public line is open and working, and there are no callers at this time.
Thank you. We'll move to testimony in opposition. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 214? Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in opposition? Broadcast, is there anyone on the line wishing to testify in opposition of Senate Bill 214?
Chair, there are no callers at this time.
We will move to neutral testimony. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in neutral to Senate Bill 214? I don't see anyone. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in neutral? Broadcast, is there anyone on the line wishing to testify in neutral of Senate Bill 214?
Chair, the public line is open and working, and there are no callers at this time.
Thank you. Vice Chair, would you like to give any final remarks? I will now close the hearing on Senate Bill 214. 1 minute recess. The committee will now come back to order. I will now open the hearing on Senate Bill 132, which revises provisions relating to insurance coverage for living organ donors. Senator Pazina, you may begin when you're ready.
Good morning, Chair Marzola and committee members. Thank you so much, and I apologize for the delay. For the record, my name is Julie Pazina, representing Senate District 12 in Clark County, and I'm honored to be here before you this afternoon. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present Senate Bill 132, which seeks to prohibit discrimination against a living organ donor with regard to any policy or contract of life insurance, life annuity, or health insurance. I'm pleased to be joined today by Elliot Mallon from Alpine Strategies, who is a living organ donor. Organ transplantation is a life-saving procedure that helps patients suffering from various illnesses. However, organ transplantation is only possible if there are organ donors who are willing to donate. According to Nevada Donor Network, there are 637 Nevadans currently waiting on a transplant. And just to give you perspective, that number has gone up since we presented this bill in the Senate. There are more than 104,000 Americans nationwide waiting for a transplant, and regrettably, an average of 20 people die each day while on the wait list. Living organ donors are those individuals who volunteer to donate an organ, part of an organ, or tissue to a person in need of a transplant. Living donation reduces the wait times for a recipient and decreases the chances of a possible recipient from passing away while on the transplant list. Living donors are quite simply giving the gift of life. And when we think of all of those people waiting on the list, their parents, their children, their siblings, their friends. And by being a living organ donor, you are giving the gift of life. And in Nevada, I look forward to the day where we can say we are not one of those 8 states which is discriminating against living organ donors. I look forward to the day where no states are doing so. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair Marzola, members of the committee, for the record, my name is Elliot Mallon, and thank you for scheduling this so early after first committee deadline. Today, I have the honor and privilege of not being here as a lobbyist on behalf of a client. Rather, I'm here as a Nevadan with the privilege of being here every day working with you all to make Nevada a better place. I'd like to start by going through an experience that led us to being here today in this hearing on this bill. On February 28th, 2021, I received an email that was sent to my entire family stating that my cousin needed a kidney. Without any hesitation, I filled out the paperwork to hopefully be a donor. On March 25th, 2021, while I was just downstairs in this building, I received a phone call from the hospital in Texas notifying me that I was a potential match. At that moment, we started the process of the preliminary testing. Before I'd come to the legislature almost every day, I'd have my blood drawn and sent to the medical team in Fort Worth, Texas, confirming that I was a potential match. By June 12, 2021, just days after the legislature adjourned sine die, I was in Texas going through extensive testing to see if I was healthy enough and that my kidney would be a final match. On June 25th, 2021, I received a phone call from the hospital informing me that I was a confirmed match and approved to donate my left kidney. And finally, on July 21st, 2021, I gave my cousin my kidney. Throughout this entire process, the donor team at Baylor Scott & White in Fort Worth, Texas, would regularly and repeatedly inform me that Nevada has no laws to protect living organ donors, that I would be disqualified from being able to obtain life insurance, and that my rates could potentially increase for my health insurance, reminding me for the last time that the morning of the surgery and offering me the opportunity to back out. In fact, 42 other states have enacted some form of protection for living organ donors. Nevada is not one of those 42 states. Nevada, alongside Montana, Wyoming, South Dakota, Michigan, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Tennessee, are the last 8 states to have not enacted this law nor any laws protecting living organ donors. When I brought this up to Senator Pazina, I was and remain grateful for her enthusiasm to change this and make Nevada the 43rd state to enact living donor protections. This will help not just me, but plenty of other Nevadans, both donors and recipients, by promising that living donors will be treated as every other normal, healthy individual within the insurance system. The less a donor has to worry about for the remainder of their life, the more likely they will be to make the gift of life to someone in need. Furthermore, there is little to no evidence that being a living organ donor creates a higher mortality rate or the development of end-stage renal failure. Thus, there should be no actuarial risk for a living organ donor within the insurance process. I'd also like to highlight that not all insurance companies even assess a higher premium, but that it is still possible for living organ donors. Today, we move the process forward in fixing this and making Nevada the 43rd state to offer these protections. The language presented to you in SB 132 is taken directly from Virginia, one of the last states to pass the Living Donor Protection Act legislation in 2022, being approved by Governor Youngkin on April 11th, 2022. Further, the Virginia law followed Pennsylvania's enactment of the law on June 26, 2021. Alongside state action, federal legislation was introduced in 2021 that would prohibit insurance companies from denying or limiting life, disability, and long-term care insurance to living donors, and would prohibit them from charging higher premiums. Often, it is this lack of insurance protections and potential for higher premiums that create doubt in potential donor matches from following through on the donation. Roughly 1/3 of all donations are through a living organ donor, and this peace of mind can make all the difference in saving another life. SB 132 aims to prevent medical and life insurance companies from denying coverage or causing a living donor to have a higher premium rate for their coverage, mirroring the language from the other states and federal legislation. I must thank all of the stakeholders that have engaged in discussions about this bill and impact it will have. I think it is important to note that there are some insurance companies in our state that have been voluntarily participating in this already, but it's not all of them. Finally, I want to also thank you for hearing this today, as well as Senator Pezzina for carrying this important legislation, and I look forward to passing this out of the hardworking committee and get another step closer to offering protections to Nevadans impacted by organ donation. Because of this bill, we will offer more opportunities for Nevadans to save lives by reducing the stresses associated with living organ donation, and with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you for bringing this forward. What an important bill. Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno, do you have a question?
Thank you, Madam Chair, I do. And thank you for the presentation. You said in the presentation that there's limited data on the life expectancy of a living donor. Do you know what that data is?
Elliot Mallon, for the record. So I believe I said that there is no actuarial risk that they've been able to see, that being a living organ donor actually reduces your life expectancy. They have not seen a drop in mortality rates. Thank you.
Thank you for that answer. So if there's no actuarial evidence of that, why are they charging a different premium to those who are living donors? How are they justifying that?
Elliot Mallon, for the record, that's a great question. Because, and part of this was that experience, the last question I was asked before I went under, that I remember, is what I should say, was them saying, are you sure you want to do this? In your state, you can be rejected from getting life insurance. The answer was yes, because I happen to like my cousin quite a bit. But I have not been able to find a reason as to why that exists. I know that, like I mentioned, there's federal legislation that they are trying to do to also do this on the other side of this in Congress in Washington. But I wasn't able to figure out why this was being assessed. One answer I got was, well, you donate an organ, so that's a major surgery. I'm fully healthy. In fact, next month I have to go for my 2-year checkup on this, and I have not seen any adverse impacts to my health. And I don't know many donors that have. So I wish I could answer that more in depth, but I haven't been able to get that answer. Thank you.
And by chance, do you know what the average premium increase is that a living donor experiences?
Elliot Mallon, for the record. Off the top of my head, no, but I can get you that information. From what I remember, it was a certain percentage increase. I think it was like 15 to 20%, but I'd have to look that up. I'm lucky enough that that has not happened to me, but I am unable to get the life insurance part, unfortunately.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Assemblyman Yurick.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Senator, for bringing this bill. I think it is a great bill, and for you, what courage it took to make that donation. Thank you for that. My question is just trying to get an idea of the scope of this. Do you have any idea how many living organ donor transplants occur in a year in Nevada? And potentially, how many are deterred because of the existing policy that does not prohibit insurance companies from doing this?
So Elliot Mallon for the record. We were hoping to have somebody from the Nevada Donor Network here to actually answer that question. So just for perspective, Nevada can only do limited living donor transplants. I had to go to Texas. If, for example, if you go through I don't remember the other one, but I think it was a pancreas, you have to leave the state. So to be honest with you, I don't think we can actually get an accurate number because of how many people would have to leave the state to receive or donate. There was another part of that question, I believe.
I was just curious if you had any data that shows how many people are not giving or not making donations because of the adverse policy.
Elliot Mallon for the record, so thank you for that. What I've learned is a lot of the people that land up donating do it to a loved one. So that, like myself, that gave to my cousin. There really isn't a second thought. The conversations I've had with people that have gone through part of this process have been numerous, of them being kind of scared off for a lot of reasons. Look, this is a major surgery. You are giving part of yourself up to save another person. But from those conversations I've had, there were quite a few who were unwilling to go forward because they were afraid of the consequences. Thank you.
Assemblywoman Backus.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I just kind of wanted to follow up with respect to the increase in the insurance premiums. I did notice that what you were saying, like the flat fee that they may arbitrarily charge, that the intent of this bill would be removing that. But it does say that basically, if there was to be a premium increase charged for someone who is seeking a life insurance policy or another type of annuity that had been a living organ donor, that the insurance carrier would then have to do an additional actuarial risk to substantiate that rate. Is that my understanding of what that meant?
Elliot Mallon for the record, yes. So for example, being a living organ donor won't be able to prohibit me for obtaining insurance. But if I take up smoking, that is a higher actuarial risk. I have now taken an affirmative act to do something that would be a detriment to my health and my remaining kidney. And so the insurance companies then would be allowed to assess a higher rate.
Committee members, any additional questions? I don't see any. Thank you again for bringing this bill forward, and thank you, Mr. Mallon, for sharing your story today. I will now open up for testimony in support of Senate Bill 132. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in support? Please state and spell your name for the record. You may begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Paige Barnes with the Ferrado Company, here today on behalf of Fresenius Medical Care. I am here to express our strong support and gratitude for SB 132, which requires long-term insurance policies to provide insurance coverage for living donors and generally prohibits denial or conditioning of coverage based upon the status of being a living donor. Fresenius Medical Care provides care to thousands of Nevadans who rely on life-sustaining dialysis treatment at one of our outpatient dialysis clinics in the state. For patients with end-stage renal disease whose kidneys have failed, they either need regular dialysis treatment or a kidney transplant to survive. While dialysis is a life-saving treatment that continues to improve and advance, kidney transplant is the treatment of choice for patients with ESRD. Unfortunately, access to transplant is limited to patients for a variety of reasons. Nearly 90,000 people in the U.S. are waiting for kidney transplants, and about 17,000 people per year actually receive one. Fresenius Medical Care supports efforts to encourage and increase the number of kidney transplants and the number of organ donors. SB 132 will help reduce the barriers for living organ donation. We ask for your support in this important legislation. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Marzola and members of the committee. My name is Donna Laffey with Ferrari Reader Public Affairs, representing DaVita. DaVita prides itself on providing high-quality care for patients who are in need of the day that they can become eligible for a kidney transplant. We're happy to support AB 132, which protects individuals who are willing to become living organ donors and make that transplant possible for our patients. Thank you.
Did you mean SB 132?
SB 132.
I get it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Madam Chair and members of the committee, Jessica Ferrato, for the record, here today in my personal capacity. I'm here in support of SB 132. Thank you to Senator Prezina and for the advocates bringing this bill forward. The bill provides support for those who make the incredible choice to give the gift of life. To make a very long story short, I am a living kidney donor. I'm also a living kidney recipient. I was a dialysis patient for over 2 years. My sister is a living kidney recipient 2 times and was a dialysis patient for the majority of her life. My stepmom is a living kidney donor, and my dad is a living kidney donor. Just by way of perspective on some statistics, every 14 minutes, someone is added to the kidney transplant waitlist. 13 people die each day waiting for a kidney transplant. We don't want to create barriers for those willing to donate. With the high needs of patients awaiting a transplant, it's important that we pass these types of critical pieces of legislation. I want to thank the committee for your time on this bill and urge your passage. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, and thank you for sharing today.
Isaac Tenorio for the record, with Strategy 260. Today representing the Nevada Donor Network, Assemblyman Urick, I've reached out to them, and as soon as I get the answer, I will circle back. Critically ill patients needing an organ must face the financial, physical, and emotional burdens of waiting for a life-saving organ transplant. The Nevada Donor Network, Nevada's only Nevada-based organ procurement organization, absolutely supports SB 132, because if we can eliminate any barrier that might jeopardize the chance of saving a life, it would mean the difference between life and death for an organ recipient. Nevada Donor Network supports SB 132 and appreciates the decision of Mr. Mallon made on behalf of his cousin. We would hate that other heroes and sheroes willing to be living organ donors might be denied insurance coverage after their decision to donate. Our thanks to Senator Prezina for also being a hero to the organ donor community. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee and staff. Rick McCann, Nevada Association of Public Safety Officers, and a member of the Nevada Law Enforcement Coalition. You know, I have one of the coolest jobs here. I get a chance to represent my heroes, law enforcement. But after I talked with Elliot, watched social media as he was going through this thing a couple of years ago, whenever it was, saw the bill presented before the Senate, I decided I have new heroes. Those are living organ donors. I didn't know any till now. Now I know several. I want to thank Senator Prezina and all of you who have co-sponsored on the Senate side and on this side here. Living organ donors obviously save lives. That's the big key. Discriminating against those people is deplorable. It sucks. And you guys have a chance to fix that. We would absolutely recommend strongly that you support SB 132. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone else here in Carson City wishing to testify in support to Senate Bill 132? Please state and spell your name for the record, and you may begin when you're ready.
Hi, my name is Trina Smith. I wasn't supposed to speak today. I just happened to come in. I was a donor for my mother in 2006. I support SB 132. Did I get it correctly? I support SB 132. Saving lives sometimes is hard, and for families, being a living donor is the best thing that can happen, especially for family members that when it's hard for family members to get a compatible kidney, it's the best thing that can happen. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for being in our committee today. Is there anyone else here in Carson City wishing to testify in support? I don't see anyone. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in support? Broadcast, is there anyone on the phone lines wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 132?
Chair, the public line is open and working, and there are no callers at this time.
We will move to testimony in opposition to Senate Bill 132. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in opposition? I don't see anyone. I don't see anyone in Las Vegas. Broadcast, is there anyone on the line wishing to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 132?
Chair, there are no callers at this time.
Thank you. We will move to neutral testimony. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in neutral? I don't see anyone walking up. I don't see anyone in Las Vegas. Broadcast, is there anyone on the lines?
Chair, the public line is open and working, and there are no callers at this time.
Thank you. Senator, would you like to give some final remarks?
Julie Pizzina again for the record, and thank you so much, Chair Marzola, the committee. This bill is so important to so many of us, and we thank you so much for taking the time to be here and hear Senate Bill 132 today. Living organ donation is a selfless act that truly saves lives. However, it's important to recognize the insurance issues and concerns that living organ donors face. And insurance companies and policymakers must work together to ensure that living organ donors have access to affordable health and life insurance coverage. Only then can we truly support and recognize the valuable contribution of living organ donors. And I would again just remind everyone on the committee of the many people in this state who are currently waiting on an organ donation. Thank you so much again for hearing this bill.
Elliot Mallon for the record. I want to echo that and say thank you. And I have the privilege to be here every day and working with you. I have the privilege to call you guys all my friends. There are so many Nevadans that don't have this opportunity, that don't have the access to this building or don't realize that they have the access to this building. And I look at this as one of those things that we're really here to do. We're here to help Nevadans at the end of the day and make Nevada a better place. And I look forward to seeing this pass. I thank everybody. I thank you for your kind words. I don't consider myself a hero. I was doing something for my cousin, who I grew up with. I've known my entire life, and I couldn't imagine him not being here with me. But there are plenty of Nevadans who have stepped up, who I do think are heroes. And I think of them as well when I think of this bill. So thank you for the time today, and I look forward to the work session.
Thank you again for the presentation. I will now close the hearing on Senate Bill 132. I will now open up for public comment. Please address your remarks to issues that fall within the jurisdiction of this committee. Public comment is limited to 2 minutes per person. Please remember to state and spell your name for the record. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to provide public comment? I don't see anyone walking up. I don't see anyone in Las Vegas. Broadcast, is there anyone on the line wishing to give public comment?
Chair, the public line is open and working, and there are no callers at this time.
Thank you. Committee members, any questions or comments? I don't see any. This concludes our meeting for today. Our next meeting will be Wednesday, April 19th at 1:30 p.m. This meeting's adjourned.